Today I want to talk about one of the best marketing tactics that you can use for your indoor playground and a great way to meet people in the community and to be able to talk to them about your services. This is basically a community event where you can set up a booth so that way you can pass out flyers and interact with local parents. First, let's talk about where you can find these events in your community if you don't know already. Looking for a farmer's market that is local to you is a really great idea. Generally, there is a cost per booth, but this is part of your marketing cost, so that's going to go into it. We actually, for a year and a half, did a weekly market called the Neighborhood Market, and it was to advertise our soft play. It's a great way to interact with people in the community and talk to them about their services and just meet new parents that generally you probably might not see in your playground. The other place you can look is youth sports, looking for a local Pee-wee league, any kind of youth sports, and it happens every season, right? You got baseball in the spring, you probably got football in the fall, you probably got basketball. Look for those youth sports events and ask if they allow vendors to set up booths during the game, running a snack bar, something like that, okay? Sometimes they will also have organized picture days where all the teams are going to be there and they allow vendors to set up a booth in picture day. Youth sports are amazing for being able to market to your clientele because generally speaking, they are for kids, right? So there's going to be parents there. There are going to be kids in your age demographic. And even if the kids in that youth sport might be a little bit older than what your indoor playground caters to, there's going to be parents that have younger kids that go to their siblings' games and things like that. So you're going to be able to capture even the younger demographic of kids that go to the youth sports game. In my area, we have certain community events where they set up every year. For instance, Halloween or Easter. In our first year of business, we did do a booth at a Halloween show that was right before we opened, just to kind of announce our grand opening, just to kind of give people a feel that things was actually happening in the community for them. And then we did book and speak to many people during that event just to kind of get our brand recognition out there. Try contacting also local stadiums in your area. We have a really small baseball team here, and the stadium here actually puts on a kids event every single year, and we got invited to do that. So you can check with local stadiums to see if they do some sort of event every single year. Check with your local school district. I remember one year our local school district puts on a fair for special needs kids. They did all sorts of things during that fair, carnival games and things like that. And they invited us to set up a little small play area for that. So something like that will be perfect. And your local school, certain schools too do carnivals and things every single year, and they are looking for vendors. If you want to reach out to local schools and ask if you can do their harvest festival or like their Christmas parade or something like that, you know, these are all great ways for you to go out and interact with the community and be able to pass out flyers. Let's talk about the cost for these booths. Okay, I'll talk to you a little bit about my experience in renting booths for big shows, okay? When I was a photographer, we would rent a booth every single year at a bridal show. Those booths can be a lot of money. They can be anywhere between $1,000 to $2,000. Now, this was years ago, so it could probably the price has raised since now. So just knowing if you're going to go to a big show, you need to ask like how many people are going to be there? Is there going to be a mailing list involved? Things like that. Those are like important, valuable items that you can get from those big shows, right? Because that bridal show, normally there was thousands of people that would come, so you would be able to capture all types of brides. So that was why that show in particular was valuable, and it could charge that much for a corner booth or whatever it was. Some of the bigger community events where we knew that everybody that was local that was going to be there, for instance, like Halloween or Easter in our community event that was put on by the city or something like that, we knew that they were going to have an exponential amount of reach, and basically everybody that was in the community probably going to go to this event. It's usually going to be like a 2 or 3 day event. I remember that booth costing us about $700. Kid events that are put on maybe by some local businesses or small businesses and some things like that, they're going to be a little bit cheaper, maybe like the $100 or $200 range. And maybe for your farmer's market or some things like that, you can maybe do some sort of arrangement for them, right? Because those type of markets, they're looking for people to provide entertainment to the kids, right? Work out some sort of deal with them to provide a service for them so that way they can attract more families to their market, and then they usually will offset the cost for you. They either will give you a discount or they might be able to provide you a booth space for free. It kind of gives you an idea of how much booth cost can be. I would say, depending on the event, you're gonna probably either be $30 for like a small vendor event, to $2,000 for a really big event that's capturing all types of people, or just barter with them, because usually you're providing a service that's going to bring people to the event. So generally, a lot of the times you have a really good bargaining chip. With that being said, let's talk about what kind of activities you can provide to be able to have that bartering chip and to capture people into your booth. It's very important for us as an indoor playground to kind of showcase what we do in our area, but it's also important for you to be able to transport that stuff easily. So for us, we did have a mobile play area, and we would transfer that to and from certain events, and it was always a hit because kids just love climbing in that play area. What I really liked about our mobile play area is it was all soft play, so it was perfect for all age levels, but there was nothing really to do once you set it up. You kind of just set it up and can let the kids go wild. And there's not really much like picking up after the toys. However, I do feel like the mobile play area was very cumbersome. It was not difficult to set up, but it was time consuming. Investing in a bounce house, bounce houses are generally cheaper, easier to transport. You could also try something as little as sensory tables. For our Halloween festival, we did this thing called pumpkin boats, where we put water in a sensory table and they got to ride around with boats. That attracted a lot of kids. A lot of kids love to do things like that, like to do activities like that. A sand table, especially if you're doing an outside event, a sand table is perfect for that. Kids always loved the sand table. We've also done things like set up a pretend play area outside. So if you have the transportation to, bring a kitchen and play toys and things like that to an area and put it under a tent or something like that, that's great. People will be attracted to your area. Maybe set up a little market for kids at a market. Setting up an art and craft station is great for this as well. Okay, so there's lots of different things you can do. It doesn't always have to be super costly. It doesn't always have to be super hard to transport as well. One of my ideas was always like setting up a little tea party or princess tea party. I would set up a little tea party table, and I would have like dress up clothes, but then I would also sell princess dress up things, because I would always see at markets where the areas where they like sell the flower crowns for girls and little wands for girls, like those will always be a good seller. So it's like, what if we did one in an all-enclosed booth where there was like a pretend play area where kids can pretend play to dress up, but then we would also sell dress up clothes. So that kind of goes into what I'm going to talk about next. Okay, how to offset the cost of your booth, even if they're providing you the booth at a barter, you are providing a service and they're not charging you for the booth, right? Talk to them about if you can sell things at the booth. So think about like what little knickknacks you want to sell at your booth that that parents are going to buy. So for us at the neighborhood market, we did fidget toys, we did dress up toys, where it was like a small value item that we knew kids wanted and that parents didn't mind spending $4 or $5 for. So that kind of helped offset the cost of having the booth every single week. Can we run a small snack booth at our booth area? There are a lot of restrictions regarding the selling of food. The only reason why I would be cautious of selling food at your booth. The other thing you can do is if they are charging you for the booth, maybe asking if you can charge for your service. So I've seen tons of indoor playgrounds, and we actually did try this at one event too, where we'll charge people to play in the bounce house, and you give them a certain amount of time to play in the bounce house, or you can give them unlimited time. It's up to you. It depends how big the event is. I've actually seen this work really well at tons of markets. I went to a market every single week when I lived in Huntington Beach, and they had a bounce house service there, and they had like 4 bounce houses they would set up, and they would charge, I remember maybe like $20 for maybe like 20 minutes or something like that, and that worked really well for them, and that will help offset the cost a little bit. Now let's talk about what your main goal is at your booth. Okay, your main goal is 1, to attract people into your booth, right? So we just talked about that. 2, once you attract the people, your main goal is to pass up flyers, to mingle with people, to talk about your indoor playground, okay? Generally speaking, if you provide some sort of activity, they're gonna ask you, do you do birthday parties, right? So when we had our soft play there, we got asked a lot, hey, do you do birthday parties? Yes, of course. Here's our flyer. Here's our packages. Give them a flyer, talk about our services, give out cards and things like that. The main goal is to get the word out there, to get brand recognition out there, to talk to parents about your indoor playground and your space. Your second goal is to get their email, all right? Now, this is really important. I think that your newsletter is the most valuable marketing tool that you have, because it's generally something that you can send out every single week, so that way people understand what's going on at your facility. Newsletters are one of the advertising tools that is kind of the least expensive out of your advertising tools. You can have a newsletter program for no money at all almost. And I talk a little bit about, the newsletter programs that I use in my ebook. Those are my tips on how to market your indoor playground at a local event using the booth system. Thanks for tuning in. I'll talk to you next time.